Hello, hello. This is Budgets with Grace, where I give you a glimpse of my life using the lens of my budget. And today I'm going to be talking about how I went about picking a wedding venue for my wedding. So, first of all, we're going to go over the venue priorities that I knew I had when looking for a location. So, guest count, I know that we're going to have about 80 to 100 people there. I would be surprised if it was more than 100, but it feels like we're just adding people all the time. I know that the theme of the wedding, I want it to be like romantic garden fairy wedding. So twinkle lights and candles, and which kind of goes into one of the other priorities being outdoors, being in the late or early summer, and just generally having a really good vibe with the music, like a music dance floor situation, basically all the things. Now that we've gone over specifically what I was looking for, that will kind of give you an idea of why the price range is where it is and what was important while looking. We're going to talk about what everybody wants to hear about, which is pricing. First of all, how do locations price themselves? There's a few different ways. Some venues charge per person, so per guest, and anyone that needs a meal, and sometimes there's also a beverage package. Another way places price themselves is using a flat rate. Sometimes this can be dependent on the date, the day of the week, the month, and all of that can play into what that flat rate is, but it includes most of the rentals, basically the amenities of the venue itself. And then there's other places that do a mix of these things, or just by how much space you want to rent at the location. So another big question that I had no idea going into this is how to get rates. Sometimes you can find it on their website. A few places had it on their website, but other places I had to email them, email the events coordinator. I filled out a lot of contact forms, which brings me to, I think, one of the hottest tips that I got diving into planning my own wedding, which was to have a separate email address for all the wedding details. So, with that, every contact form I filled out, every email I sent to get these prices was all in my inbox. I could put it all in a folder and have it all collected, which is how I have all this information to share with you. So, shout out to Jamie Wolfer of the Master Plan, because it was her tip that got me to do that, and it's magical. Kind of my last resort way to get prices would be calling people or getting on their Facebook account. So you can get prices that way. You can connect with somebody that way, but it wasn't my favorite way, mostly for organization reasons. I really liked having it all together in that email inbox, but some places I couldn't contact that way. And it just kind of depends on how established the venue is, if they have a dedicated person for these type of things, and all those details. The first venue that I thought of for a wedding is on Orcas Island. I recommend you start with your love story when looking for a venue or a place to have your wedding. And Orcas Island is really special to us. That's where we both first exchanged that we loved each other. We went on this beautiful day trip. It was a few months into our relationship, and it was just a wonderful time, and one of my favorite memories with him for sure. And I figured, why not try to get Orcas Island? Like, I knew it was going to be really expensive, but I had no idea. And this is the location. It's called Sara's Garden at the Outlook Inn. You can see it's really gardeny, like the perfect vibes that I wanted. They have this chapel that is actually linked to where we're from in Bellingham. It was built in Bellingham, shipped to Orcas Island, and then they've done a lot of work to it. So it's just really beautiful for pictures. Pretty much, I just think this is a gorgeous place. And then I got into the pricing. This is one where it was date dependent and also person dependent. So there were dates that were seasonal, special, limited. I don't remember exactly what they were. I didn't look it up, but there was a different price point for every date. There was also a different price point based on how many people you had and which of their reception spaces. So you could have Sarah's Garden for the ceremony, and then if you had like less than 60 people, you could use a smaller reception room. And then, as you can see, there's also plate packages. So the venue, if we got the flat rate on the day that we wanted, it would be 4,500 just to have the wedding there. Then we get into the huge cost of the dinner and beverage packages. So this is just my best estimate. You can see there's total costs parentheses 96 and total cost parentheses 63. I was trying to estimate a high number of guests as well as a low number of guests to give myself the best idea of the price range we're looking at. I also have non-alcoholic on there, which I know there's a few people on the list that wouldn't be drinking alcohol, even before asking them. So I don't have the number of people, but just trust me, it's the right amount. So the high end total is almost $18,000. And like there's no option to do our own catering. Like we really want a food truck and like we can't do that with this one. So that was also a consideration. It's not just the price tag, but also the flexibility. Being on an island makes it a lot harder to coordinate with vendors and it's just a lot more limited access. So we really have to do what the venue wants to do. Next, I looked at a spot closer to home called Lairmont Manor. So another really beautiful garden setting. I would say that overall the vibe is pretty different from Sara's garden. I feel like Sara's garden gives me a very like natural, almost close to the forest garden vibe, and this is a lot more polished. The building is beautiful. They have these tents that they'll put up for you. Just very classy, I felt like. So a couple of pros are it's local, very close to home, very easy to plan for. It's very established, so they have a lot of the tables and a lot of the chairs, all the things that you have to think about if you're getting a more of like a DIY wedding. Just a lot of things taken off your plate. And you kind of get that when you look at the price tag, which is the major con. So it is priced by the weekday. A Monday through Thursday is the lowest price point, and then it goes up to Saturday, which is the day we want to have our wedding. Like we have a lot of out of town guests, and I don't want to have it on a Sunday and then expect people to travel on a Monday. Like I just don't want to do that. So this is like the major con for us, as well as, like I said, it's a little more classy, established. I don't know, it's not the vibe I want. This brings us to the next option, which is pretty close to us, a little bit further out, but like maybe an extra 10 minutes out of town. And I love the vibe of this one. So another, like they have this floral, I think it's supposed to be aromatic garden area, a perfume garden, I think they called it. And they have, you can see this bride with the orchard. It looks like those are pears. And then they have this like pavilion situation where they had the ceremony. So overall, I just think that this is such a beautiful setting. And it I was like primarily looking at like photographers' websites when looking for a venue. So gorgeous. And the big pro is the price of having your wedding in a public park. So basically this is what I was mentioning. It's flat rate, but it's kind of based on where, like what areas we want to reserve in the park, as well as there's some fees included. So there's a picnic shelter, which was where they were having their ceremony. There's an orchard area, which I definitely want people to be able to mill around in and kind of enjoy. Reservation fee, alcohol use fee, and waste removal fees, all for a total of $536. Like, such a good price. However, there are a lot of rules if you get married in a park. And I contacted them to ask if we could have a dance floor, things like that. And they specifically said, no, hell no. Basically, there's a rule that there's no amplified sound. Basically, our event cannot interfere with other people enjoying the park, even though who wouldn't love to stumble upon a park and observe a wedding? But even including like our ceremony, I expect there to be amplified sound, like aside from a reception dance floor. So that was pretty important to me. And ultimately, that was the deal breaker for this one. On to the finalists. These are the places that we toured. Let's start with Wisteria Gardens in Anacortes. So gorgeous, another outdoor space. You can see they're having their ceremony under a huge wisteria. And like this picture doesn't even do it justice. Like it's so big, like it feels wide open. The whole area felt very big and open and really like just a wonderful place. You can see the interior where they're dancing. It's like kind of country, shabby chic vibes. Outside looks like just a big red barn. So one thing we also loved about this, like I said, is big open spaces. They also had a grooms area, and that is not something we considered to be very important to us before seeing it. And actually, it became like one of the things that we thought of when making our final choice. They also have a beautiful fragrance garden as well. That's what it's called, not a perfume garden, a fragrance garden. And for us, this cost, it's up in the top corner there, flat fee. 5,800, which was definitely like the tippy top of our budget. And I'm glad we went to see it. I would say the other major con of this is it is in Anacortes, which is a good 45-minute drive from us. And looking at all the things that they have included, they have a lot of decor items included, like signage and candles and votives and so much stuff to decorate with. I was imagining commuting to Anacortes for 45 minutes to go sort through that stuff, figure out what I wanted to use. And I don't even know how I could possibly organize it in preparation for the day because I assume people would be using it. So it just seemed like overwhelming to be planning all of my own decor and like not have like, 10 to 20 minute access to the location. So overall, we decided that this was a really beautiful place. But it wasn't for us, partially because it is so big and wide open, and we are not having a 200-person event. Really beautiful, good option if you have a much higher guest count, I think. Another excellent location was Axton Events. We didn't really visit a location that wasn't gorgeous and had a lot of pros. I did a lot of research because I'm a nerd. What did we like about Axton Events? Beautiful outdoor. You can see the bride with probably her mom on the dance floor. They had a dedicated dance floor and they had speakers, and you can see, I think the best you can see it is this couple with the balloons. There's a like weeping willow in the middle of a pond that is kind of hard to see. You can see where the ceremony space is set up with the chairs. It is back there, but I don't think it really does it justice either. Like, it was really cool to stand in front of that tree of forest and be like, we could get married here. And then the bridesmaids are in a spot that's like 10 feet away, but it looks like a totally different spot. That was another pro, is they just had so many beautiful spots for photos. The cons were pretty much there's no grooms area, which, like I said, we went to Wisteria Gardens and we're like, oh, that would be really nice for Forrest to have a place to like be with his groomsmen. Like, clearly I'm the bride, so I'm the priority or whatever. But it's also his day, and like I think just the idea of like having a room where he could like close the door and be with his dudes and like drink a beer, we decided that was important as well. So the other con is this is just like somebody's backyard. So it was kind of weird to go out to their property and like they live right there, and like it's not a deal breaker, but I just thought it was a bit weird. You can also see the price was really in our price range, 4,200. That is one of the best prices that we saw. And that brings us to our final list, which is Beau Lodge, and this is the one we went with. Spoiler. So a lot of the similar pros of the other ones. It's outdoors, there's an orchard, there's a fragrance garden. You can see this couple in front of the sunflowers and the dahlias. Then the little bridge they're on, that's another spot where Forrest and I stood, and we're like, we could have our first look here. And we had a little mushy moment. They also had a bride's area, a groom's area, a kitchen, and like a couple extra bathrooms. And that is always really good to consider. They had a space for a dance floor. We could have amplified sound during the ceremony. We could have any caterers we wanted. We could have the food truck option, like I was saying. And yeah, they don't have any, they have like vendors they can recommend to us, but they don't have any like preferred vendors. And they didn't include as much as, especially compared to Wisteria Garden, where it felt like they included a ton. They include the like tables and the chairs, and there's some tableware, like plates they'll include. So compared to Wisteria Garden, they don't have as much included, but they did have the essentials included. And Wisteria Garden did have a plate and like dish fee per person. So overall, I would just say it was better suited to our needs. I really feel like the only con I can think of for this property is we toured in January, and at this point, we had decided for a September wedding. And this was, I knew going in that I would love this place. So then to go in with Forrest, he saw the venue in January, and like I saw the venue in summer. So it did take a little bit of talking and communicating together to finally decide that Beau Lodge is our venue for $3,100 total. They also include a small security deposit or damage deposit. For any place that talked to me about a damage deposit, they said that they basically keep a check in your file and they cash it when or if necessary, and most of the time it's just returned to you. So technically, in my budget, I won't have to budget for the check, but knowing myself, I want to have that money ready. um, and then, if we don't end up needing it, then we get a little bonus from ourselves. So that was my process for picking a wedding venue. Thank you so much for watching. If you like seeing wedding content and budget content, you should definitely subscribe, like, comment, all the things, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.